All right, so I do want to thank everybody for joining us today for our first time home buyer seminar. We are a little excited about this one because I think we all are very aware of the current market. Plus, last year we unfortunately we had to cancel, so this is a very exciting seminar for us. My name is Jacqueline Lopez. I am the marketing manager at Mass Mutual Federal Credit Union, and we have a list of panelists today to help you understand a whole 360-degree view of the home buying market. So Mary Beth, let's start with you.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Mary Beth Deloria, and I am a mortgage loan officer with the Mass Mutual Federal Credit Union. And I would like to welcome everyone to this seminar, which is hopefully going to provide you with an overview of the home buying process. We hope that this seminar will answer some of your questions, give you information perhaps that you did not already have, or give you new questions to ask. As Jackie mentioned, please type in your questions, and we'll do our best to get those answered for you. And all participants will also receive a survey by email, which you can complete and let us know your thoughts. We always like to know what's going on, how well we did, so please uh, answer the survey honestly. So speakers today, myself, we also have Don Ruffino with REMAX. We have David Sherwood from Sherwood Inspection Services, and Donna Wexler, an attorney with Bacon Wilson. The objectives of the seminar are to give you an informed idea of what first steps you should take, know the costs associated with buying a home, what your lender will be looking for in your application, the types of mortgages that are available, how to find a home that's right for you, and the role of the realtor, what is a home inspection and the importance of having a home inspection, the closing process, and what the attorney does. So first steps, really you should be looking at your, let's call it financial health. Look at the monthly debt that you have. Do you know where your money goes each month? Who you owe, how much you owe? If you've got a credit card and you're only making the minimum payment on that credit card, how long is it going to take you to actually pay that balance off? What can happen if you miss a payment or make a late payment? And are you living paycheck to paycheck, or are you able to save for buying a home or future expenses that you might have? Review your credit report. You're entitled to a free copy of your credit report each year, and we're going to provide you with a web address at the end. But once you have that report, review it and look to see, is it accurate? Are there any errors that could be impacting your credit score? Because the credit score that you have is very important for buying a home. If there are mistakes, get them corrected. You can call the credit bureau directly. They will work with you. They'll do everything they can to get those errors fixed. We may even be able to help you with that. We have some online programs that we have access to that will provide you with ways to improve your credit score and your payment history. We could also help you with a budget. We do budget seminars, and we have a credit counselor that you could even work with too. For down payment, if you haven't started saving for down payment, you're going to want to start to do that unless you've got a family member who is going to be giving you a gift. And we're going to talk more about down payment a little bit further into this, as well as reserves. Typically, the lender is going to be looking for you to have at least 2 months of that new mortgage payment set aside in an account, saved up in case of an emergency, job loss, property repairs, and then know how much you can afford. We'll also get into that a little bit more in depth as well. All right. So costs with purchasing a home, down payment. There's a lot of myths out there. You may have heard that you need to have 20% down in order to buy a home. You do not. Many programs will allow you to put as little as 5% down. That is 5% of the purchase price. Most of the programs at the credit union do require that 5% down if it is going to be a single family that you're purchasing. If you're thinking of buying maybe a two family, then your down payment is going to be 20%. And if you're looking at more than that, like a 3 to 4 family, you would need a 25% down payment for that. Now, if you don't have 20%, you will be required to have what's called private mortgage insurance. And that insurance becomes part of your monthly payment, and it may be required for the life of the loan or until you pay that balance down to 20%. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to have private mortgage insurance. It's just going to be something that becomes part of your payment, and you would pay it back to the lender over the life of the loan. The credit union does have a first-time homebuyer program that requires as little as 3%, but there are income limits based on where you're looking to purchase. So you can always reach out to us and either give us an address or give us a town, and we can punch that in and tell you whether or not you would qualify for that first-time homebuyer program with that lower down payment. For closing costs, you're going to want to plan on anywhere from 3 to 6% of the dollar amount of the mortgage. That includes all of the costs that the lender incurs as they're going through the underwriting process, and then all of the attorney fees. Plus, there will also be the collection of anywhere from 4 to 6 months of real estate taxes and homeowners insurance that will be held in what is called an escrow account. And that's so your lender can make the future payment for those items to the town or back to the insurance company when your policy renews. And then you may also have to pay points, and points would be a one-time fee paid at closing based on what your credit score is, the type of property that you're purchasing, and how much you're putting down. And those points can range anywhere from 0.25% to 3.25% of the loan amount. And if you did the pre-approval with us, we would certainly be able to tell you what you would be looking at based on that credit score, because we would have that score. Then also you're going to have, the utility and the charges for phone and cable at the new house and movers fees. Are you going to be hiring a professional service to move you, or are you fortunate enough to have strong, hefty friends who can do this for you, and then you pay back that debt with pizza and beer? So what's the lender actually kind of looking for in your application? That's going to be what's called your ability to repay the loan. They're looking for a stable employment history. Minimum of a 2-year work history would need to be entered when you do your application, and your income needs to be stable and verifiable. So only income that is reported to the IRS can be considered. And if you work a second job, you would need to have a minimum 2-year history for that second job as well. Then they're going to be looking for what's called a comfortable debt ratio. All of your current monthly obligations plus your new mortgage payment should not exceed 30% of your monthly gross income, not the money that your take home pay, but what you make before taxes. Monthly gross is what all lenders work with. That's known as your debt to income ratio. And this ratio is also going to include any deferred student loan payments that you may have out there. We do have to include those. We use 1% of your balance, but that is something that has to be factored in. And then your mortgage payment is going to include principal, interest, real estate taxes, homeowners insurance, and the private mortgage insurance if that is applicable to your loan. Then we're going to go back to looking at, do you have sufficient assets for your down payment if you're not getting a gift from family? Closing costs, remember, that's anywhere from 3 to 6% of the loan amount. And reserves, that money that you might need to fall back on in case of an emergency or job loss. That would be 2 months of that whole new mortgage payment that you need to have there. But for that, if you do participate in the 401k through your employer, If you provide a statement showing that, that money can be considered reserves. We know you don't want to liquidate it to use it, but you would have it to fall back on in case of an emergency. And then they're going to also look at the repayment history from your credit report. What does your credit report say about you? The last 2 years have the biggest impact on your credit score. You should have no late payments because that is going to give you a lower score. And how you utilize credit will also impact your score. So if you've got a lot of credit cards and you have more than 50% of your limit in use, that's going to have a negative impact on your score. So if anything, try to pay the cards down, get to below the 50% threshold, and then your score will improve. So you should definitely try to meet with your lender. And in the days of COVID, we know that's difficult, but we're willing to, many are going to talk to you by the phone. It is a great time to ask your questions and don't be afraid to ask questions. I always tell people there are no dumb questions. This is a big step. It's a big process. There's a lot. We don't expect you to know everything. So please just put your questions out there. It's filled with terms you don't know. And two of those terms would be, should I be pre-qualified or do I need to be pre-approved? A pre-qualification is based on unverified information regarding your income and debts. So you would basically just be kind of telling us, hey, I make this, this is what all my debts are, where do my numbers kind of fall out? What might I get approved for? But there would be no guarantee with a pre-qualification because nothing has been verified. Whereas if you did a pre-approval, you would fill out the application, your credit would be pulled, we would review that along with your income and assets, and a letter would be issued to you for that pre-approval. And then you would know how much you can actually spend on a house and get out there and start looking. Once you're pre-approved, it's best to look at houses, up to that rate, up to that limit, stay within your range because you don't want to fall in love with something that you then can't afford. And getting pre-approved shows that you've done your homework and that you are committed to this process. Sellers and realtors both want to know that you've been pre-approved, and some will even ask you for the letter that your lender has given you. So types of mortgages, really there's two types. There is a fixed rate or an adjustable rate. And a fixed rate is exactly that. The interest rate is fixed for the term of the loan. Loan terms start at 15 years, 20, 25, and 30. Your principal and interest payment would never change on a fixed rate loan. On a variable loan or an adjustable rate loan, your interest rate's only going to be fixed for a portion of the loan. And in most instances, that's either the first 5, 7, or 10 years. And then after that, your interest rate is going to adjust every year. So you would have changes to your principal and interest payment at that time. And depending upon how long you plan to stay in that house or in a particular area, an adjustable rate mortgage may be the right product for you to go with instead of a fixed rate mortgage. So the application process with the credit union, ours is online through our website. It's many questions. They're going to ask about your finances. You're going to answer all of those questions to the best of your ability, but pay attention to ones that ask about future borrowing. Do you think you're going to need to take out a car, or are you going to be opening up new charge cards, or heading back to school and there's going to be student loans? There's some things that are going to be on credit and other things, if you do it, we might not know about it. So your debts will all be displayed for you to verify while you're doing the application. We ask that you don't make any deletions or make any changes to that. If there's something that concerns you or that isn't right, make a note of it and then discuss it with your lender once you have submitted the application. Let the lender be the one that makes that change to the application. It's an automated system. that should, once you have submitted it, provide you with a pre-approval letter. Sometimes a letter doesn't come back and it just says to you, someone, more information is needed and someone will reach out to you. So you may have just keyed in something wrong and the numbers are a little bit off and the system just can't issue that letter. So don't be alarmed. We look at them every day, all day long, and one of the loan officers will reach out to you and go through it and just kind of see, can we get you to the point where we are able to give you that pre-approval letter so you can get out there and start looking. The letter will provide you with next steps and tell you what items your lender's going to need. Typically, that's going to be, 1 or 2 pay stubs, W-2s for the last 2 years, and then the asset and bank statement. So again, with down payment and closing costs, whatever you list in the application in terms of an asset, know that the lender's going to come back to you and say, okay, I need statements to back that up. So, don't overinflate things to make it look better, because if the statements don't support it, we're going to have to change things. And then that could kind of skew that original pre-approval that you had. The online system is also, if it is able to issue your letter, a set of disclosures is going to come back to you after, and you're going to want to look at that disclosure package. If for nothing else, just look at the one that says loan estimate. That gives you all of the closing costs. It gives you that new payment, proposed payment breakdown, and you will just want to, have a good idea of what you're looking for in terms of total that's going to be needed to get into this house. So again, typically it's 2 months of any asset or bank statements. The charge for pre-approval is normally it's $50, but for those of you attending the seminar, we are waiving this fee for you. And there is a field where you can enter a promo code. So if you put in a code of spring 2021, that's there in the slides, you won't be charged for the seminar. Your pre-approval is then good for 4 months. And the code's valid today through December 31st. So pre-closing requirements, this came about a few years ago, and so far I've never had to do this, and I hope I never do have to, but once your offer is accepted and everything's going through, try not to open any new debts or take out that car loan or sign up for that credit card with the fantastic 0% interest rate for 6 months. A new credit report's going to get pulled 48 hours right before closing. And the last thing anybody wants to know is that new debt out there, and now you no longer qualify for this mortgage and things come to a grinding halt. So if something happens during the process, keep in touch with your lender, talk to your lender and just say, hey, this is what's going on, and let's see if the numbers all still work.
I guess I'll just get started. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dawn Raffini. I am with the Bay State team at RE/MAX Connections, and I'll be talking to you about the roles of the real estate agent and how the process for your house hunting will work. So when you're looking to purchase a home, there are different representations you can get from a real estate agent. You can be a buyer's agent, which would work in your best interest as a buyer, or a seller's agent who works in the best interest of a seller. The first time an agent meets you face-to-face, they should be presenting you the mandatory agency disclosure, which will indicate on there which representation they hold. So whether they're a buyer's agent or could be a buyer's agent for you, or if they're an agent for the seller. There is a contract that agent may ask you to sign, which is a binding contract. It outlines the duties and responsibilities of the agent to you as the buyer, as well as your duties and responsibilities to the agent. Most agents won't present that to you right away, but they should at least explain to you the difference between signing that disclosure, which is not a contract locking you to work with them, and the contract, which does in fact tie you legally together. One of the things that you want to be very clear with your agent about are your needs, your time frame to make a purchase, and the goals that you have. When it comes to financing, one of the things that I like to talk to my clients about is when they're meeting with their lender to really dig into what their financial picture looks like, to make sure that you explain to the lender what you're comfortable with in terms of having for a monthly payment, so that when we're looking at properties as an agent, we can help make sure that we're keeping you within your window there. As far as home requirements, the more you can tell us about what you're looking for, the easier it is for us to help you find something, even in this challenging market. Do you want a ranch? Do you not want a ranch? Do you want to be in a town that's close to work or close to a highway? So all of the things that are important to you should be discussed and told to your agent. So that way, again, as we're trolling the internet for listings for you, your needs are top of mind for us. So the ways that you can find a good agent are obviously to get referrals from friends or family that have recently purchased or have sold and they like that agent as well. You can get referrals from your lenders, from your attorney. Any industry professional should be able to give you a few referrals and recommendations. You could take the time, and you should probably take the time to interview a few agents to make sure that you're comfortable with who you're going to work with. I like to call it, this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. You will be spending a lot of time with your agent. And to make sure that you have a good, comfortable relationship with them is only going to make your process and your experience better. If you're going to contact multiple agents, don't do it online. You will get bombarded with calls, texts, emails. You're better off working through word of mouth to find a recommended agent in your area. Once you do find an agent that you're comfortable with, make sure that you make that commitment to work exclusively with them. They're going to be putting a lot of time and energy into helping you find the right place. And it's helpful if you're going to be, as in, if you will, on the journey as they are. So house hunting tips, again, the things that you want to ask yourself and prepare for when you meet with your agent is, what kind of house are you looking for? Now that could be a multitude of things. Again, you want a ranch or you don't want a ranch. You want 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms. You're okay with 2 bedrooms. It needs to have a yard that can be fenced. You want an acre. You want a house that has enough land for a horse. Those types of things are very important for us to know. Where you want to live. Again, do you want to be near a highway? Do you want to be out in the country? What specific towns do you want? Is there a neighborhood that you really like? So you can be as specific or broad as you want. Just know that over time, some of those things will change in the sense of their timing wise might not be what you're looking for. So it's important to have a little bit of flexibility in what your initial I really want list versus what turns out to be your need list. If there's any special requirements, again, if you need enough land for a horse or you want to have chickens, those are town specific types of ordinances and things like that. So again, it's important for your agent to know really what your wants and needs are. Things that we're trying to have buyers look past is the HGTV house, and have an understanding of what sweat equity is. There might be a house that still has 1972 wallpaper and shag rug, but as a buyer, you could go ahead and say, if I'm going to get this house for the right price and I'm going to stay here for X amount of years, I can do these things and I'm going to increase the value of my house. So having that mentality is really important, not just in this type of market, but in any market, because that's where you're going to build additional equity out of your property. You should take notes when you're out at these properties. I used to have clients that would label the house by something that was very memorable, like, the house with the fountain in the front or whatever, so that they could remember what it was. because if you see too many in one day, they're all going to blend together, and then you won't remember which is which. I see a quick note in the, or a question in the chat. I'll answer that really quick. If there's a difference in looking for a condo, on the financing side there is, and maybe Mary Beth will have some time to circle back to answer that a little bit, but it does impact what you can qualify for because of condo fees. But at the same time, not every condo is equal. So you might have certain condo complexes that you're interested in that have amenities that you don't mind paying a little extra for. And when you look at it versus a complex that doesn't have those amenities, if that fee seems a little high, that would be kind of a little bit of a factor that you would take into account. Scheduling a second showing, it does say in the bottom there, sometimes it's really hard to do that. With there being a very limited inventory, what I am personally trying to do is make sure I'm even attending open houses with my clients, because that may be the only opportunity there is to see it. So having that pre-approval in advance is going to be probably a big difference for you versus some other buyers in the market. So you really want to have that up front. So when you find a house you like, you're going to know it in your bones. You'll know when you found the house that you like. We sit down, we'll make an offer. We do take a look at what has sold in that area to try to give you a good idea of what fair market value is. It's a little challenging right now since there aren't as many comparable sales. However, we do have a pretty good pulse on what's trending in terms of pricing right now. So making sure that you have your earnest money deposit to put down, again, is important. These are things that we would be discussing up front to know how much you're going to be putting down. Do you need closing costs? Are there any other factors that will come into play? But we want to make sure you have your inspection contingency in there. If you're on social media at all, you will see that people are waiving inspections. I personally don't advise that. Just because you have an inspection doesn't mean that you have to ask for repairs, but you should at least know what that house contains. You should know how the heating system works. You should know roughly how old the roof is, what upgrades you should make. Dave and his team are really good at all of that. He's going to get into that a little bit more. But again, mortgage contingency, it's important that we've talked with Mary Beth to know, how much time do we need for our mortgage contingency from the date we have a purchase and sale agreement? How long is our closing time going to be? Is it going to be the 6 weeks? Is it going to be the 8 weeks? And we may be in a position that we have to negotiate counter offers. And what that means is we've presented an offer to the seller and the seller's agent, and the seller and their agent have come back to us with an alternate offer. Sometimes that is just, you have, till tomorrow at 10 to come back with your best and final offer. And just to be clear, that doesn't always mean the highest offer, the best terms and conditions that you can offer that would meet the seller's needs. Sometimes we don't get that opportunity. So I do always recommend that you put your best foot forward on any offer, because you may only get that one opportunity. Your attorney will review the contract once you have an accepted offer. That's where Donna Wexler comes into play. As agents, we can put boilerplate stuff together, but the attorneys really dig in and make their changes that are legally important. Once you have that contract signed, it kind of runs concurrent with our inspection timeframe. So we get you scheduled for that. And once the inspection hurdle is cleared, the appraisal would get ordered. We work through making sure we get your mortgage commitment on time. And there will be documents that will be asked for, and we need to make sure that those are provided in a timely manner to keep us on track. You'll need to get insurance and an insurance binder from the insurance company. You'll set up your utilities closer to closing. Any certificates that are needed would be taken care of by the agents and attorneys. We do a final walkthrough. I typically do it the day of closing, just because you never know if something goes wrong overnight. And then you attend the closing, and then you become a homeowner.
Okay, so from an inspection standpoint, we have several things to consider. All right, so from the inspection standpoint, we look at the purpose of an inspection. And as was mentioned earlier by Dawn, that some people are putting in offers without the contingency of a home inspection. And we really look at history for that and watch what happens in other areas of the country, Phoenix and areas of Florida and California, and what happened when they didn't get the inspection and how many problems they're having today. So strongly encourage you to go through the inspection process. It does teach you not only maintenance, but teaches you more about the house that you're looking to own and you're looking to be in. So it really gives you a different feel for it, how it works, what you can anticipate coming up in the future, and things that the average person can't see. And if you want to get an idea of what that list of things that we inspect look like, you can always go to our website, sherwoodinspection.com. And we do have a list on there of things that we look for. It's a partial list. There are literally over 3,000 different items, but this will give you a base plate to understand. Now, when you're going to look for a home inspector, there are lots of ways that you can find a home inspector, and referrals are oftentimes the best. What you really want to do from there is check their reviews. You can go online. Everybody seems to be Googling reviews today, restaurants and hairdressers and salons and so on and so forth. That seems to be the way that it's going. Check out the reviews and also see how they back their inspection. In other words, okay, what happens if I'm not happy with the inspection and how do they back it? And so we certainly have our 200% guarantee in line with that one. You want to make sure that you do your homework up front. When you go and view the house for the first time, you want to jot down some notes. What concerns do you have? What worries do you have? Let us teach you about them and hopefully take away those worries for you and be able to walk you through, be able to see it together. We're going to give you a full report. That report will have photos and sometimes videos of certain things that are occurring in the house, certain things that you'll want to know. And you'll want to be able to take a look at that report and read it through fully. Some people make the mistake of just listening to the inspector and thinking that they're going to remember all of the things that they talked about and then never go back and read the report. So I strongly All right, this is not moving forward.
Oh, we heard you, David. Sorry about
Okay.
that.
That's all right. And then you have a time frame. Now, this is where you might be able to move forward without canceling the home inspection, but limit the days of the home inspection if you can get set up in advance. So let's say you're looking at a home inspection or a home that you want to buy and you're thinking you're going to need an inspection on it. Then from there, you can call the inspection company and start to get a feel for where are they at. Different times of the year are going to be different. We like to try and do the inspection in 3 days, but things do get busy, May, June, July. We may not be able to get to it within 3 days. So start to get a feel for when they're available for you. When we talk about the inspection cost, there's a misnomer to that in that, people think that, well, they can get everything under the sun, meaning lots of ancillary inspections, and it's going to cost the same as they predicted the inspection to cost. What I mean by that is there is a home inspection cost, and that is based on age, size, what else you have in there, barn, garage, 2-car detached garage plus an attached garage. So all of these things come into play. It in no way talks about the value of the price. And so you should know that. It's based on size and age and how long it's going to take and what's involved in the inspection process for the inspector. Now, there was a question that came up, and it comes up a lot: new construction. All right, new construction, there are two options. One is during construction. So you can do a 5-phase inspection. When the foundation is poured, the inspector comes out and reviews it. And then once the framing goes up and the roof is on, before they put the siding and windows in, then it's inspected. Then they put their siding, windows, and so on. So there are 5 phases, including your rough in of your plumbing, electrical, and then of course your final. People say, well, how is that different than the town? Good question. A lot different. The town will come out and they have a list of things that they will do, which usually encompasses about half of what it takes to build a home. Then the rest is just kind of left carte blanche. The inspector can pick up all of it, everything that they see, and be able to see how things are coming together. They have a lot more time than the town inspector has. Usually a town inspector will spend about 20 minutes on site, where we will probably spend closer to 45 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on what phase of the inspection we're in. And then of course the final, we might be there 2.5 hours. So very big difference. Now the other is, let's say the house is already built, brand new, got a CO, then could we have it inspected? Absolutely. That's a different inspection. It's called a new inspection. And we just did one last week where somebody forgot the flashing in the chimney, yet it passed the CO because flashing and gutters are not part of what the town is looking for. So important things to understand. You can plan on the inspection, almost no matter which inspection it is, taking about 3 hours. And one of the things that we've run into with COVID is during the inspection time, the sellers aren't happy when you've got a family of people there, 8 or 9 people or whatever it might be. So both Massachusetts and Connecticut want you to limit it to the person that signed the agreement and one other person. Now, because things are starting to open up, if there were 2 or 3 people there other than the signee, I don't think they would have a problem with that. We just don't want all kinds of people in there running around. So think about that a little bit. The other aspect to it is during that inspection time, people like to be able to see what the inspector sees. Us as inspectors like for you to see that too. And we want to be able to participate with you throughout the inspection. That's why we want you to bring your concerns. However, using inspectors' ladders and equipment is beyond what the states allow. So you have to be cautious of that. And if it's a staircase that's in the home, you can use it. But if it's an inspector's ladder, you can't have kids or adults even climbing them. That's just not something that they like. So you will get a report. The report is sent to you, typically emailed to you after the inspection within 24 hours, most companies. And it will go through all the different aspects in the inspection. And then there may be ancillary inspection reports too, such as a wood destroying insect, i.e. termite inspection. And then there's a radon test. Most people get both of those. If you're on a well, then you may do water quality and well flow to check that equipment that we can't see that's down in the ground and make sure that that's working okay. And fuel leak detection. Those are the most common ones that a lot of people are looking at to make sure that the fuel piping and tank, if there is one, oil tank, that they're in good shape. So these are the things that you want to consider ahead of time and get an idea of what it's going to cost you so that when you get to that point, of the inspection, you're fully prepared and fully engaged in it so that you can get the most out of it. And that's really what we want, is we're here for you, working hand in hand with you to make sure that you understand that house completely by the time we're done, as far as you want and with as much information as you want to engage in it.
I'm going to talk to you about how an attorney is involved in the closing process. You've heard everybody talk about a lot of documents, and it's important to remember that the documents that you're signing throughout the process are contracts, and they set up legal requirements and obligations on your part and on the other party signing. So it's important that you understand those documents. Mary Beth talked originally about the disclosures that you're going to be signing and the documents that are required for your application. Dawn talked about the documents set up for hiring, working with an agent, the offer, and the purchase and sale agreement. So it's important to contact an attorney right up front about any questions that you have regarding those documents that you're signing. And what I always like to talk about when I present at these seminars is that all of the people that are talking tonight are part of a team that you're going to be working with throughout your home buying process. So get us all on board in the beginning and ask any of the questions that you need to, so you're comfortable with what you're going through. So the attorney sort of runs, the attorney's roles run parallel to what everyone else is doing. You hear from us at various times throughout the process. Initially, when you first make your offer and review and sign a purchase and sale agreement. So we are involved at the beginning. Then, as Dave talked about, you're going to do your inspections, and oftentimes we'll have conversations with buyers after they've done the inspections, whether or not they are comfortable with pursuing that purchase, whether or not they want to ask for any kinds of credits or repairs. And we work oftentimes with the agents to discuss how those repair requests should be drafted. We, as part of what we're doing while you're going through your loan process and your inspections, we are obtaining information that help us get through the closing at the end and confirm that what you're buying is free of liens, is where it should be on the property. So we obtain tax information from the collector's office in the town that you're purchasing. We make sure there are no liens against the property for taxes or municipal services. We conduct a title exam, and that's probably the most important bit of information that we provide to you. If you're buying a house, you want to make sure the person that's selling it to you has good title. So we search the records at the Registry of Deeds for at least 50 years back. We confirm that that seller really owns the property, that there are no liens or undischarged mortgages, and we make sure all of that is cleared up before we actually close. We secure a plot plan. A surveyor goes to the property and confirms that the buildings with it are all within the lot lines. There are no encroachments by neighbors' buildings or driveways. And so that's all confirmed prior to the closing. And we also work with the title insurance companies to obtain title insurance. So in addition to us doing the title search and confirming for you that there are no title defects, there's also title insurance that is required by your lender and recommended by us to purchase on your own for additional coverage against any title defects. So what we do, we have responsibilities for reviewing the title exam, coordinating the closing with your lender, with the seller's attorney, and with the real estate agent. So there's a lot of coordination that's going on between our office and the other offices that you're fortunately kept out of, because there's a lot of back and forth getting us to the closing. We prepare the paperwork for the closing. We prepare all of the checks and disbursements. Our office, the buyer's attorney's office, whether it's our office or another attorney's office, records all of the documents, the deed, the mortgage, all of that at the registry of deeds. What you're responsible for as a home buyer is paying for your closing costs, and Mary Beth touched on some of those in the beginning. Included in your closing costs are the cost of the title exam, the title insurance, and the survey, and all of those are added to what you're going to need to bring at the time of closing. But what's great about the way the disclosures work now, you are educated from the beginning of the process when you first sit down with Mary Beth, who's going to give you a loan estimate, and she's going to give you an idea of what all of that cost is, including what we just talked about with the title search, the title insurance, and the survey. So a few days before the closing, we've gotten through all of the title search, everything looks good. Everyone's getting ready to close. Our office is putting figures together. So part of what you're going to receive at least 3 days prior to closing, is a closing disclosure from your lender. And that's going to provide you with a pretty good idea of what you're going to need on the day of closing. We are putting those figures together to provide to the lender and to you, so you know exactly how much money you need on the day of closing. So we're working out the figures with the other attorney's office. We're putting all of our adjustments together, and then we're letting you know that your figures are going to include the closing costs, the balance of your down payment, any escrows that are required by your lender, and any adjustments. And all of those are added to your purchase price, and you're given credit for the deposit you made, any other credits, and that's where we get your bottom line, and that's the check you're going to bring to closing. Also, those few days before closing, you're going to be talking to your agent, and if you're working with Dawn, she's going to schedule a final walkthrough with you. You're going to go to the house the morning of the closing or the night before and make sure that everything looks good. The seller has not damaged anything since the last time you saw the property, that the repairs have been made. The worst thing you can do is come to a closing and buy a house without doing that final walkthrough, because you don't know what could have happened during the seller's move or in the few weeks since you'd last seen it. And then getting back to those closing costs, we're going to ask you to get a certified check for what you need in order to close. And that's what you're going to bring on the morning of the closing. So some examples of closing costs, I think Mary Beth touched on these also. I've talked about them too. These are all going to be provided to you as part of your loan estimate initially, so you have an idea of what the total is going to be. A lot of people will call us right in the beginning of the process and say, what are my closing costs going to be? Well, there's no set amount. They do range across the country from between 3% and 6%, but it's different in every state and it's different on every transaction. But the good news is you're going to get an estimate right up front and have a good sense of what you're going to need. So on the closing day, again, sometimes what I tell people is that you've done all the hard work up to that day. When you come to our office to sign, that's just what you're doing. You're signing documents, most of which you've seen already, because the loan process requires you to obtain and receive disclosures from the lender throughout the process. So there are no surprises when you come to the closing. So when you sit down at the closing table, you're going to review and sign the documents. You're going to bring that check we talked about. And then after the closing, you'll receive copies of everything you signed. It's a good idea to keep that in a safe place. But what's also good now is that we can save all of it. It's all saved for you in our database. And if you ever need copies of anything, we have those available for you. You know, every year I think that this slide is going to be taken out of the presentation because things are going to change. Well, we're still dealing with bank-owned properties. We're still dealing with short sales. And I think we're going to see a lot more of those after this past year. And these types of properties, properties that are now owned by a bank because the bank foreclosed, or short sale properties where the seller owes more money to a bank than the house will sell for. So they're asking the bank to take less. These are, as I said, I think we're going to see a lot of them coming up. They are sometimes they seem like a very exciting prospect. They are challenging, however. There are very strict time frames for bank-owned properties. They require you to do a lot of work, and if you don't comply with their time frames, there are threats to retain your deposit. The short sales take several months, sometimes up to 2 years. That's been the longest we've gone through, where you're waiting to buy that house. So if you're at all interested in those types of properties, talk to an attorney before you even make an offer. Because once you're in the process, it's very, very exasperating. So it's good that you are educated prior to jumping in.
Thanks, Donna.
You're welcome.
So we'll just kind of go through what your timeline should be, just so you kind of hear it all again. Get pre-approved. That is the best thing that you can do for yourself. You'll know for sure where you stand. Get out there, choose that agent, get comfortable with somebody, then find your dream home. Write up your offers, get it through that, do your inspection, sign your purchase and sale agreement. Excuse me. Let your lender know that it's time to do the appraisal, do the walkthrough, do the closing, and move in and become that home buyer.